Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is Shreya Jadhav and today we are going to learn English Grade 10 Supplementary Reading 1 A Triumph of Surgery written by James Herriot. So let us know something about the author. James Alfred Waite, born on 3rd October 1916, died 23rd February 1995, known by the pen name James Herriot, was a British veterinary surgeon and writer. He is best known for writing a series of 8 books set in the 1930s and 1950s about the animals and their owners, which begin with If Only They Could Talk, first published in 1970. James' books are partially autobiographical, with many of the stories loosely based on the real events or people. Genre: A Triumph of Surgery is a short story by James Herriot. Setting: Tricky, a small dog, is pampered and overfed by his rich mistress. He falls seriously ill and by his rich mistress consults a veterinary surgeon. By perform an operation, does the dog recover? Characters: There are 3 main characters. The first character is of Tricky, a small, pampered, and overfed rich dog. Mr. Harriet, the veterinary doctor. Mrs. Pumphrey, a rich woman and mistress of Tricky. Introduction for answers. Dear students, this introduction is going to be really very helpful for your board examination purpose because you can score marks easily over here for good presentation also. Introduction. Prose name: A Triumph of Surgery. Author's name: James Herriot. Genre: short story. Summary: Tricky, a small dog, is pampered and overfed by his rich mistress. He falls seriously ill and by his mistress consults a veterinary surgeon. So let us understand story in brief. Here the important key points of the stories have been written down over here with easy explanation. A triumph of surgery. Triumph means victory or a state of joy for success. Mrs. Pumphrey was a rich woman who had a dog named Tricky. Mr. Harriot was a veterinary surgeon who knew both Mrs. Pumphrey and Tricky, and he was concerned about the dog because he looked like blotted, means swollen sausage. His eyes bloodshot and rheumy. Rheumy means watery. And his tongue lolling from his jaws. Lolling means that the tongue was out of his jaws. He asked if they were giving enough of exercise to Tricky. Mrs. Pumphrey said he had little walk with her, but it was the gardener who used to take care of Tricky. But he was suffering from back pain, so Tricky was not playing any ring throwing game. The doctor warned her that if she will not reduce the pet's food and give him exercise, then he was going to be ill. Mrs. Pumphrey conceded that she found it difficult to do so. She even had wardrobe for him of different clothes for every season. One day, Tricky stopped eating and he bouts, means spell out of vomiting. The doctor had to get him from the house to the hospital and needed to be hospitalized and kept under observation. Mrs. Pumphrey informed the doctor that her dog was suffering from past few days and was inactive and he seemed to have no energy. She thought that he was suffering from malnutrition, so she had been feeding him every hour of the day. She was feeding him malt, cod liver oil, Horlicks, and she thought that it was still unsuffice for him. The doctor had already warned her to cut down on sweet things, but the dog would prefer sweet at all time and he never refused for the food. He could eat a meal at any hour of the day. She was not ready for it as she felt that her dog would miss her. The doctor didn't listen to her and carried the dog and wrapped him in a blanket to his car. The lady's entire staff came out and brought his things to doctor's car. The doctor drove off, and when he went on the road, he looked at the dog and confirmed that he would cure him anyhow. At his surgery, the household dogs rushed at them. They sniffed Tricky but found him motionless and uninteresting, and they ignored him. The doctor gave him plenty of water for 2 days. On the third day, Tricky began whimpering, and when he heard the other dog, he became friendly with other and started playing with them. The other dogs were fed from bowl and Tricky licked one of the bowls after the dogs had eaten their meal. The next day an extra bowl was kept for him. Soon Tricky started playing with other dogs. Tramped and squashed, he became an accepted member of little gang with silly things. Mrs. Pumphrey used to ring a dozen times asking for updates about her pet. She wanted to know if he had cushions for sleeping and proper clothes. When she came to know that Tricky was recovering, she started sending fresh eggs, 2 dozens at a time for Tricky. But Doctor and his partners enjoyed them for breakfast. When she sent some wine for Tricky, the doctors enjoyed a couple of glasses and then, when the brandy came, they had it after the meal. The doctor was tempted to keep Tricky for some more time so that they could enjoy the goodies that came from Mrs. Pumphrey's house in the name of her pet. But he knew that she was also suffering without her pet. So, after a fortnight, he was forced to phone and tell her to come and collect her pet. Within minutes, she came in her big luxury car to collect her pet dog. The doctor's care had changed Tricky into a lithe, hard-muscled animal. He carried the dog along the passage to the front of the house and the chauffeur was still holding the door open. Tricky saw his mistress and leaped on to her lap and licked and barked. The dog leaped onto her lap and licked and barked. The doctor helped the chauffeur to put all things belonging to Tricky. Mrs. Pumphrey was so happy and she thanked the doctor. She had never in her wildest dream thought that her pet had got well by exercise and no overfeeding. She believed that the doctor had operated on the dog and had made him fit and fine, so it was triumph of surgery. This is all about a brief explanation. Thank you for watching. If you are having any doubt or queries, you can comment down in the comment section. Have a good day.